So I'm going to talk just for a minute about a rotator cuff injury. Tears, partial tears. There's a lot that can go on with rotator cuff tendonitis. There's a lot that can happen. Here I have a little model of a shoulder. This is a right shoulder, so it comes like this. This is the clavicle. Here's the humerus, and here's the scapula. This is the part that's on the back side. So here is represented all the large musculature, the skin, all that stuff is taken off of this model. And we're really deep now. We're on the musculature that's really close to the bone. And this is the rotator cuff. So here they are. Here are the rotator cuff muscles. They're actually 4 different muscles, but this isn't exactly how they work. They blend together into a cuff. So that's why it's called the rotator cuff. But this group of muscle can be they can be injured in a lot of different ways. Extra torque, if you're throwing really hard, or external forces like you see often football players will go back to reach to pass. A quarterback passes and someone tackles them. Well, that torque can really hurt your rotator cuff. There are a lot of different ways to injure the rotator cuff. When that happens, these muscles are torn at some point. There are other ways to injure the rotator cuff as well anatomically. This little shelf right here, it's called the acromion, and when the bone lifts up, it can kind of jam into that shelf, and you can see where that would pinch that muscle right here, and sometimes that can wear on it and eventually cause a tear in and of itself. So if you're having pain with lifting your arm up overhead, there's a chance that there's a rotator cuff injury. Obviously you'd need to get assessed and find out from a professional what actually is going on in your shoulder. In order to prevent rotator cuff injuries, the main thing is to keep a healthy shoulder. So it's important in sporting activities and other aggressive, heavy physical labor that you warm up. It's the toughest thing on these muscles is to work cold on these tendons. And so it's important to just, again, the same type of thing that you would do to warm up for a stretch or to warm up for an activity. If you're going to do that activity, you would warm up by doing that activity, but lightly. Just don't do the activity hard on cold muscles. So if you're going to throw, if you're going to play baseball or you're going to play catch with your kid or whatever, start light, start close, and then build up to where you're throwing heavier. The hardest thing on these muscles is for you to do nothing, to be cold, and then just really launch a ball or go really aggressive with something like that. That's how injuries happen. Usually a rotator cuff injury is either overuse or trauma. And if you have either of those things, you need some relative rest for a short period of time. So if you have sore muscles and if you feel like, oh, I'm injured in my shoulder, give it some time to rest, and then before you go back into heavy activity. If you feel this injury recurring, then it's time to see a professional. That's what we do here at Intermountain and Intermountain Physical Therapy. We can help you figure out what's going on with your shoulder and if there's how serious the injury is and how much help you need.